Tonight, let's journey together to a remote, windswept rock in the Outer Hebrides. We're going to a lonely lighthouse and a mystery that has haunted the waves for more than 100 years. Let's begin with the words that made this event famous. They paint a picture of a lonely vigil, a passing ship, and a light that for some reason failed to shine. You see, our story takes place on Eilean Mor, one of the 7 Flannan Isles, and it's an island with, well, it has a reputation. For centuries, people have felt something here. They called it the other country. It was a place of such deep superstition that even seasoned shepherds, they would bring their sheep here, but they would never ever spend the night. And the brand new lighthouse, it had only been watching over the sea for a single year, a lonely beacon in this vast, unnerving quiet. Then, in the winter of 1900, the silence from the island, it started to feel unsettling. It all started on December 15th, when a passing steamer, the Archtor, noticed something unthinkable. The lighthouse was dark, but the weather was so harsh, it would be 11 more days, 11 long days before anyone could set foot on the island to find out why. So when the relief ship, the Hesperus, finally made it there on the day after Christmas, an eerie stillness greeted them. There was no flag flying. No keepers were waiting at the landing like they were supposed to be. They blew their horn, they fired a signal flare, but there was just silence. So the relief keeper, a man named Joseph Moore, was sent ashore all alone to investigate, and what he found inside would only make the mystery deeper. He found the path leading up to the lighthouse was completely quiet. The entrance gate was shut tight, and the main door, it was locked. Once he was inside, the silence was absolute. Even the kitchen clock had stopped, its hands just frozen. And there on the kitchen table, a meal sat cold and untouched. Meat, potatoes, pickles. It was as if the men who were eating it had left in a sudden great hurry. And at the head of that same table, a single chair lay on its side, toppled over on the floor. And then he saw a very important clue. By the door, where the men kept their heavy waterproof coats, only one of the 3 was left hanging. This meant 2 men had gone out prepared for the weather, but a third had rushed out into the North Atlantic winter without his. Superintendent Robert Muirhead arrived 3 days after that. His search of the island, it revealed evidence of some kind of immense power. The West Landing was just devastated. It was a sign of an almost unimaginable force. Think about this. Iron railings that were set in concrete were twisted right out of their moorings. A huge rock, one that weighed more than a ton, had been thrown aside. And all of this happened over 100 feet above the level of the sea. Now, here's where the story can get a little confusing. The lighthouse log. The official investigation found just a simple slate with one last, very normal entry from the morning of December 15th. All those more dramatic stories, you might have heard them. Stories of a terrible storm, of men praying, of one keeper crying. Well, it seems those were actually made up much later, just to make the story sound more sensational. Because no bodies were ever found, the official explanation just didn't satisfy everyone. And that gave rise to all sorts of speculation that continues even now. The official conclusion, it came from the Northern Lighthouse Board. It was simple, but terrifying. They believed that a huge, extraordinary wave, or maybe a series of them, had crashed over the island and just swept all 3 experienced keepers into the sea. It would explain the incredible damage, but did it really explain everything? But you know, where the facts end, that's where speculation begins. All these other, more fantastic theories started to pop up. Whispers of a fight that went horribly wrong, of a ghost ship, a sea monster. Some even said it was spies or maybe even aliens. People were just trying to explain something that felt unexplainable. But the questions, they just linger. It was strictly, absolutely forbidden for all 3 keepers to leave their post at the same time. The first rule of the lighthouse was to keep the light, always. So why did they all leave? And why would one of them, an experienced man, rush out into those perilous conditions without his protective coat? What could have possibly been so urgent?
And this is maybe the most haunting question of all. If they left in a panic, if they were fleeing for their lives, who would have taken the time to close the gate and lock the door behind them?
The mystery really leaves us where it left those first rescuers, just standing there in silence, thinking about the fate of 3 men who simply vanished. The lamps are all automated now. The island is quiet, uninhabited by people once again. But the silence, it still holds its secrets.